Solo board gaming night here, and today I'm going to be playing Too Many Bones Undertow. I'm going to be using my favorite gear lock, Stanza, and alongside Stanza, I'll be playing with Duster as well. Together, we'll be going head to head against Barnacle. I hope you enjoy. I will be playing the Heroic Adventurer mode, which is going to add 1 HP and give each Gearlock an additional training point before day 1. Stanza starts with 5 health, but I am going to add that 1 HP and go ahead and give Stanza that extra HP, which is going to end up giving her 6 HP. And for the training point, for now, and I'll explain how it goes as I do it, but I will actually be training for the song Forever Mine. I enjoy this song because as she plays it, and I'll show you how that works once I get to that point, you get to put baddies in a trance. So depending how far along the song is, you'll be able to place a 1-point baddie, 3-point baddie, or a 5-point baddie in a trance, and you're able to manipulate their turn. And it's really neat, so I enjoy that one. So that's what I decided to do for Stanza. Let's move over to Duster. Here we have Duster. Her too will be adding 1 to her total health. It's going to bring Duster's total HP to 4. Now Duster has a companion called Nightshade, and whenever Duster takes damage or goes below full health, she could call upon her companion Nightshade. So I'm going to go ahead and put Nightshade up on my skill sheet, and for her training point, I will be using Duster's Dagger. The Dagger ability causes bleed on the baddies, and it's a very, very helpful skill to have. Duster's a glass cannon, but she is very powerful if she's played correctly. With that done, let's go ahead and start our very first encounter of the game. Our day 1 encounter is Eat or Retreat. Success. The escape from Abendar was draining, but now the real struggle begins. Better judgment stands at odds with the stomach's grumbling. Obviously, it's necessary to get as far away from the city walls as possible, but doing so without finding cover to rest a bit and eat may have dire consequences before long. A dissonant symphony of whirling mechs overhead, shouting guards nearby, and a stomach in anguish serves as a reminder that no choice is safe, and this journey is already fraught with hardship. Alright, so let's go ahead and flip this over and find out what our choices are. This icon right here lets us know that no matter what I choose, there will not be a battle this day. But depending what your choice, the choice you make is going to depend on what you end up getting this day. In this case, I could choose to either keep moving and each gear lock gains 1 dex stat, which is really, really useful, especially for Stanza. My other choice would be each gearlock will get a treasure. You'll take a few minutes to get a lay of the land before proceeding, and you get to turn over the baddie stack chip in each baddie stack. That's helpful too. However, I really, really want that 1 dex, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. Now, every time you complete a day, which the first 2 are almost freebies, I'll let you know right here, each gearlock will get 1 treasure and 1 training point. Over here on the bottom left, it'll let us know that we just progressed 1 point towards getting closer to battling Barnacle. Now Barnacle, if we go back to him, we need to get 5 progress points within 8 days to be able to be successful. If we take longer than 8 days to get 5 progress points and fight and defeat Barnacles, we'll lose. So let's try our very best not to let that happen. Coming back to Stanza, since our encounter gave us 1 extra dexterity stat, I'm going to go ahead and increase that right now. So Stanza now has a dexterity of 4. She also earned a loot card, and so did Duster. We'll get to that in a second. So let's draw her loot card. She ended up drawing kelp powder, and that is 2 uses. You could do that by turning the card, letting you know how many you have left over, and once you don't have any more left over, you discard it. And this removes 1 effect die from yourself or any adjacent unit. Unit could be anyone, friend or foe. Also, I have another training point to spend, and this one's going to be very easy for me because I love Under the Old Zelfie, and this basically gives you and your party extra health buffs and health, and it's really useful to have, especially when the baddies hit you really hard. So for Stanza, that's it. Let's move on over to Duster and see what we're going to do on that side. Now over with Duster. Once again, she has 1 free deck stat that she earned from that previous day. I'm going to go ahead and add that. It's going to bring her total dexterity up to 4. She also ends up getting a loot card. So let's go ahead and draw her loot and see what she ends up getting. She gets a simple snare. It's also a 2-use item. And during an opposing unit's turn, after that unit moves 1 position, use this to cancel any remaining movement. It could come to use. Now, when it comes to loot cards, just to let you know, you can hold a total of 4 different loots, unless it's heavy. Heavy loot, it counts as 3 loot slots. So then you would only be able to carry an additional 1 if that's the case. There's also Trove loot, and once we get to that, we'll deal with that when it gets here. We'll cross that bridge. But for now, Duster also gets a training point. And for Duster's training point, I'm actually going to try to train her defense. And this is going to be a good way to show you how upgrading defense works, because I cannot just add a stat to it. I have to roll the total amount of defense I have, in this case 1 defense die, to see whether or not I get to upgrade it. If I roll a bone, I fail, but I can re-roll it 1 more time. If I roll a bone again, I'll have to train on something else. However, if that doesn't happen, I'll be able to add 1 extra stat to that defense. So let's go ahead and do the roll. Here goes my roll for that defense. I ended up rolling a 2 shield. Well, basically, I didn't get a bone, so I was successful, and I'm going to be able to go ahead and upgrade that defense. Since Duster was successful in upgrading her defense, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Now, the last thing that we have to take care of is actually give us the progress point that we earned. I'm going to show you how that looks. Let's go over to the map and do that right now. Once again, we have 8 days to earn 5 progress points. Since we ended up earning 1 progress point on our previous day, we're going to go ahead and move our adventurers up 1. We're 4 points away from being able to confront Barnacles and hopefully put a stop to him. Alright, so now we're at the end of the day and we have some options. At the end of the day, you could trade loot within your party, which we're not going to do right now because I'm happy with what I have. If we would have had Trove loot, we would be able to get an attempt to lockpick the Trove loot. However, since that's not happening yet, we'll cross that bridge once we get there. After that, you're going to have 3 individual options that you're going to have. You can choose to either rest and recover, which will bring your gear lock up to full health. You could search for better loot, so you could discard one of the loot that you do have and then roll 6 attack dice. For every bone that you roll, you get to reveal that many loot cards, and you get to choose and keep 1. Now, if you end up doing that and you do not roll any bones, you lose that loot card. So it's kind of a risk reward, but it's worth it if you need it. And finally, you get to scout the area by rolling a d6. Now, if you roll between a 1 and a 3, you get to scout a 1-point baddie. If you roll between a 4 and a 5, you get to scout a 5-point baddie. And if you roll a 6, you get to scout a 20-point baddie. And scouting, what it is you turn over the respective baddie, and you decide whether you want to keep them in the front or move them in the back. If they're nasty, you'll probably want to move them in the back. Since I don't want to exchange any loot, There's no lock picking that needs to be done. I don't need to rest and recover because we are at full health. I don't want to search for better loot. I'm just going to go ahead and scout both for Stanza and Duster. I'm going to go ahead and roll the d6 twice, and depending what happens, we're going to come back and we're going to scout. Let's go ahead and roll that d6. Alright, so this first roll is going to count for my scouting as Stanza. She rolled a 6, so she's going to be able to scout up to a 20-point baddie. So she could scout a 1, 3, 5, or 20-point baddie. Now for Duster, here we go. She rolled a 4, so she could scout up to a 5-point baddie. So she could do 1, 3, or 5. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so Stanza could scout up to a 20-point baddie, but since this is going to be day 2, there's no way she's going to reach that requirement. But since day 3 is around the corner, I do want to go ahead and scout a 5-point baddie and see what we have here. Okay, she scouted a Dragon Breacher. I'll tell you how to read the baddie chip, but right now what I care most about is what the keywords here say, because this is their ability. The Dragon Breacher has compound, which means that depending which round it is, that's how many attack die that this Dragon Breacher is going to attack with. So round 1 will only be 1 attack die, round 2 will be 2 attack die, so on and so forth. That's actually, I could deal with that. He's got a health of 6. Alright, the reason I want to keep this one is because Careless 2 means that while the dragon is rolling their dice, if he rolls a bone, he's going to give himself 2 true damage. So that means that even if he's got a defensive die up here, he's still going to take 2 true damage, and I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that one in the front. I will not move it in the back. And for Duster, she could scout up to a 5-point baddie, but I'm going to go ahead and scout a 1-point baddie because I know that's what we're going to do next round most likely. Now, this is the Kobold Collector, and this one comes in with equipment. Now, equipment, you're going to have to roll a d6, and if you roll between a 1 and 2, they add 2 to their HP stat. So he'll have 5 HP instead of 3. If the dice rolled is a 3 or a 4, you increase his attack die by 1. Ouch, that kind of hurts. And if you roll 5 or 6, you increase their initiative die by 2, so he'll move up the initiative by 2. This one targets 2 gear locks, and it is melee. You know what? The next one could be worse, but I don't like this one right now. It's too soon for that, so let's move this one to the back of the queue. Not the queue, but to the back of the stack. All right, so that's the end of our first day. Let's go to the second day and see what happens from here. Looking at our adventure map, I'm going to go ahead and place our counter to the second day and draw the next encounter card. Our day 2 counter revealed settling into our adventure. Now that Obendar is safely in the past, thoughts turn to the task of building a raft to navigate the Cibron. Chopping down trees is tiring, Splinter getting work, but the sounds of loud quarreling nearby reveal a simpler option. A group of unsuspecting barbarians with piles of stolen resources strewn about their camp. Brick, lumber, grain, ore, and wool. So much wool. At the moment, the entire group is puzzling over how to build a catapult from 2 wood and 3 brick. Taking on the whole group is doable, but perhaps a little tough. If we make some subtle noises from the tree line, maybe we can lure a few of them away and search for a robber who might steal from their stash at random. Flipping over this second encounter card, I could tell right away we are going to get in battle no matter which choice we make. One choice will not yield an extra reward. The second choice is going to be a little more risky. It will give us each gear lock an extra loot. If I go without the reward, it's going to be the distraction worked. This is nobody's largest army. The battle queue baddie points subtract by 1 and gearlocks have surprise. Well, it's day 2. That's 4 baddie queues. See, I'll make 3 instead of 4. That's helpful. Now, I'll explain that later. The second choice is the longest road always leads to victory. Attack them all, which will bring 4 baddies out to fight. Now, I didn't scout that 1-point baddie. I don't know what's coming up there, so there's going to be 4 of them that come out to just get extra loot, and that's a little risky. So I'm going to go ahead and do the distraction, subtract 1 from our baddie point, and the gearlocks have surprise. So let's go set up the baddie queue and see what that looks like. Alright, so let's set up our baddie queue. Now, in order to find out how many baddies are actually going to show up, what we do, we're going to multiply the amount of gearlocks, which is 2, by the day, which is 2. This is day 2, so 2 times 2 is 4. We're going to be using 4 1-point gearlocks for this battle. However, as you can remember on our previous choice, we ended up using the gearlocks have surprise option, which is going to subtract 1 from that baddie queue. So instead of having 4 1-point baddies, we're only going to have 3. So let's go ahead and do that right now. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to show you how to read the baddie chips. And right here we have the plated Kobold. This one, what you need to look on the upper left corner, it tells me that he's going to come in with 3 health. He's going to have an initiative of 2. Okay, he's going to be a melee character. In the case of a tie, he will be targeting the weakest gearlock, and he will be rolling 1 attack and 1 die during his attack. So, since he's the first gearlock baddie that comes out, he will be placed under the first lane marker. He has, and this is it, he has 3 health. So I'm going to give him 3 health. He has an initiative of 2. So I'll grab that first lane marker, put it to the second initiative, and place it in our initiative meter. And he is melee. So we'll look for lane 1. He's melee, and we will place him right there. Okay. Going on. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention. Hardy. You guys don't know what hardy means. So hardy, what happens here is, doesn't matter how much you damage him, you could roll 6 damage on him. It's going to be reduced to 1. That's it. It doesn't matter how much you damage him, it's going to be reduced to 1. And this does include true damage. So the most, I'm going to have to hit him 3 separate times for him to come down, to go down. Alright. Ooh, we have the Goblin Devastator. Now our Goblin Devastator is going to come in with 3 HP. He's going to have an initiative of 4. He's going to be a melee baddie. He will, in case of a tie, target the weakest gearlock and has an attack of 1 attack and 1 defense. Now here on the key, his abilities, he has Detonate 2. Detonate means that once he has less than full HP, after his movement step, he will detonate and destroy himself, defeat himself, and cause 2 damage to any unit nearby. Now, any unit nearby does include as well any baddies. So he can hurt us as gearlocks, but he can also hurt his baddie friends. So let's go. Since he was the second baddie to come out, he'll be behind the second lane marker. Well, he has 3 health. So I'm going to go ahead and give him 3 health. He has an initiative of 4. I'll grab his initiative mark die and put it in 4. Since it's a higher number, 4 will go before 2. And he is melee, so I'll look at lane 2 and place him in the melee lane mark. All right. Our final baddie will be, oh no, A Goblin Devastator again. We already know what he does. I already went through it, so I'm going to grab the 3rd lane marker. He has 3 health. I'll go ahead and do that. I will grab his initiative die. He has an initiative of 4. In case of a tie, the smallest number goes first. In this case, this was the 2nd lane marker. 3 goes behind the 2nd lane. So the two lane marker goes first. The 2nd lane marker goes first. And he's melee, so we will look for lane 3. We'll place him on the melee spot. So our battle for the baddie queue is set up. So let's go and grab Stanza and Duster and set them up as well. Okay, we're going to need Stanza's character chip and her health, as well as her initiative die. And her innate ability starts her off with this Leotard die. And this lets her know how much focus she could use to play her song. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that right now. And we have 3 focus. That's what we rolled. I'm going to go ahead and place that right on her preparation area. And let's move over to Duster and see what we need to get from her. Okay, we're going to need to have Duster's character chip and her health, as well as her initiative die. Since she's still at full health, for now, Nightshade will remain on her character sheet in her preparation area. Let's go right back to the battle mat. Actually, before we even get to the battle mat, let's go ahead and roll Stanza and Duster's initiative die to see where they're going to land on the initiative meter. Okay, so Duster rolled a 5, and Stanza rolled a 4. Let's place that on the initiative meter. Alright, so Stanza rolled an initiative of 4, and since she's tied with the baddie, Gearlocks always go first. So she's going to go in front of that baddie. She is a melee character, Gearlock, and you're going to have to place her in one of the melee positions of the battle mat. Those are the Gearlock positions right here. The baddie ones are the ones with the colored spots. I'm going to go ahead and place her in the Gearlock's melee spot right here. Now, Duster, she rolled an initiative of 5. She is the highest initiative. She's going to be all the way in the front. And her innate ability allows her to be placed anywhere on the map. It doesn't matter if you place her on a ranged or melee position, or even a baddie or Gearlock position. She goes anywhere. I'm going to go ahead and place her right here. We set our round counter to round 1, and our battle's about to begin. Taking a look at Duster's mat, you could see that she has 4 dexterity. Now, with that dexterity, that's going to determine what you do, whether how much you move and how many dice you get to roll. For example, out of those 4 dexterity, if I decide to move once, I'll have 3 dexterity left. With that remaining dexterity, I could either roll 2 dice and 1 defense, or in this case, I have a maximum of 2 defense and just 1 attack, or I can roll a skill, a defense, and an attack. You can mix and match in many ways. It's really up to you. But in this case right now, what I want to do, I want to roll with my 4 dexterity, 2 attack dice, and 2 defense die. And I can do that because I have 2 attack and 1 + 1, 2 defense. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's roll and find out what we get. So here's our roll. All right, so you see here we rolled 2 attack and 2 defense. So let's go back to the board and see what we're going to do with that. Okay, before I rolled, I forgot to determine my target, but it's obvious that I was going to target the Goblin Devastator. So if you recall, I ended up rolling 2 attack and 2 shield. So 2 defense. So with my 2 attack, I'm going to go ahead and damage the Goblin Devastator for 2 health. The Goblin Devastator has 1 remaining health point. Let's move to Duster's character mat and let's see what's going to happen with the defense dice. Okay, so looking at Duster's mat, since I rolled 2 shield, defense shield, what I'm going to do, I can slot those into my active slots. So this is going to protect me from an attack. So if Duster were to get attacked on the battle mat, I could reduce my damage from the shield before she gets actual health removed from her. So let's go right back to the battle mat and see what's going to happen next. Alright, now if we look at the initiative meter, it's going to be Stanza's turn next. And if we look here, there's a few options that Stanza is going to have for herself. So let's go back to the mat and let's take a look to see what type of songs can help us in this situation. What makes Stanza so unique to play is her ability to use songs to her advantage. Now, songs do a variety of different things. Sometimes they help herself, the team, the allies, or do negative things to the baddies, sometimes even to the team, depending what happens. But overall, there's always something powerful within every song. And in order to play the song correctly, you'll see that each song has different sections. This one, for example, has 3 sections. Okay? On the bottom right-hand corner, you see that there's a number. That's the focus number, how much focus is needed to play this song. If I were to advance the song to the next section, the focus would change. And if I were to advance it again, once again, the focus would change. And I would need three focus to play this section. Earlier, I rolled Stanza's Leotard die, and she gave me a focus of 3. So I could put in play Forever Mine using 1 focus, put it in my active slot, and that song begins to play in the background, right? Now, every time you start playing a song, you use 1 dexterity. So right now, I technically only have 3 dexterity. However, let's say I want to advance the song. That would cost another dexterity on my next turn, and I'd be able to play that section of the song. But if I want to start the song over again because maybe there was a previous section that's more useful to me, I could do what's called a vamp. Now, when you vamp, it doesn't cost any dexterity. It'll still cost a focus, but it won't cost you dexterity to vamp. It only costs you dexterity when you're actually playing the song. Okay? So in this case, the song that I want Stanza to play right now is called Forever Mine. And the reason I like it is because once she starts playing this song, I could choose any 1-point baddie on the map and put that baddie in a trance and basically take a baddie movement for myself. So I take over that baddie and move as if it's my turn. Like give like the baddie an extra move, but you're the one in control. And when that happens, you could choose to either use their attack die, move them closer or away from you, or maybe you want to use their special ability, or maybe not have them use a special ability. Well, anyway, whatever the case is, that's why I like this song. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure out of my 4 dexterity, I'm going to use one of those dexterities to start playing Forever Mine and lock that in my active slot. It costs 1 focus, and I have 3 focus. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm allowed to keep playing that. Now, I still have 3 more dexterity, and I have 1 more die here that I actually want to start playing. This die is called Under the Zelfry. And Under the Zelfry, what it does, it gives you buff HP, and HP, 1 HP for all allies, and then you could, as you advance it, this one gives you the party, the whole party, 1 buff, and this one gives the whole entire party 2 buff HP, and buff HP stays here on your prep area, and when your Gearlock gets hurt, instead of taking the HP from under her character chip, which can cause her to get knocked out, you could use the buff HP instead. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to begin to play both Forever Mine and Under the Old Zelfie. I'm going to start this on section 1. And section 1 gives me the ability for myself to add 1 HP buff. So there you go. I added 1 HP buff to Stanza. She has 2 songs. Both of those songs, this one is needs 1 focus, and this one needs 1 focus. I have a total of 3 focus, so I'm good with that. Out of my dexterity, I use 2, so I have 2 dexterity left, and with my remaining dexterity, I'm going to use an attack die and a defense die. And I'm going to roll that, and let's see what happens. I have my attack and my defense die. And I'm going to roll. Okay, that's actually a great roll. I ended up getting 2 attack and 2 defense. Let's go to the battle mat and let me see what I'm going to do with that. So here we are at the battle mat, and Stanza ended up rolling 2 attack and 2 defense. That 2 defense, I'm going to go ahead and slot it inside of her active slot up on her character mat. So what that's going to give me, just like I did with Duster, that's going to give me the ability if an enemy would attack me, I can remove the shield instead. But with that 2 attack die, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit this Hardy guy right here. Since he has Hardy, this 2 attack is actually going to only attack him for 1, because Hardy reduces everything, no matter how hard you hit him, down to 1. So my plated Kobold is down to 2 HP. And remember that song that I was playing? The one that gave me that buff? Well, the other song gives me the ability to grab a 1-point baddie. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and bring it over here. That 1-point baddie. And I'm going to put that 1-point baddie in a trance. I'm going to decide to place this baddie right here, this Goblin Devastator, in a trance. And the reason I want to control this Goblin Devastator is because I'm going to be able to do a complete baddie move. I can move exactly the way he would have normally moved. But if you remember, he has what's called Detonate 2. And what Detonate 2 does is, after his movement phase, if he has less than full HP, he's going to detonate, destroy himself and everyone around him. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. The song's playing, he gets in a trance, and I'm going to move him 1, 2. His movement phase ended. He's going to blow up. He's taken out, and he's going to hit the plated Kobold for 2. However, Hardy is going to reduce that to 1. And he now has only 1 HP remaining. I wanted to quickly add, the reason that the Goblin Devastator damaged the plated Kobold, but not the other Goblin Devastator here, is because when he blew up, he caused damage to everyone adjacent to him. And adjacency in this game is orthogonally. It's in the front, behind, to the left, and to the right. Diagonals do not count. And since this Goblin Devastator was diagonal, that didn't count. And since our Goblin that was in lane 2 was removed, I'm going to remove the lane 2 and its respective dice out of the game, because he's no longer in the game. And right now, it's going to be the turn of who's in lane 4? The other Goblin Devastator. So now it's the other Goblin Devastator's turn to move. I'm going to put the Goblin Devastator I destroyed. I'm going to put him in a discard pile. Now, the Goblin Devastator is going to move to the nearest gear lock. In this case, it's Stanza. He's going to go and move up to 2 spaces. But in this case, he only needs to move once. The Goblin Detonator, remember, he has Detonate 2 once he goes below HP. He will detonate himself on his next turn after the move phase. His second ability is Careless. If he ends up rolling a bone during his attack, if he rolls a bone, he will give himself 1 point of damage. Therefore, he's going to cause us problems when it's his turn to move again. Let's see what we could do to stop that. But in the meantime, if we can stop that, he's going to go ahead and attack Stanza using 1 attack die because he has 1 attack and 1 defense. So he's going to roll 1 attack die and 1 defense. So let's see how much damage he's going to do to Stanza. The Goblin Devastator takes a mean swipe to Stanza, and he rolls 1 attack and 1 shield. Let's go back to the battle mat and see what happens. The Goblin Devastator rolled 1 attack and 1 shield. Now that shield goes on top of him. Next time I attack the Goblin Devastator, if I hit him for 2, I would remove his shield first, and then the second attack will go through and take his HP. However, if I would roll just 1 attack, I would just remove that 1 shield and do no damage to him. But in this case, he put his shield up, and he went ahead and attacked Stanza for 1. However, Stanza, let's go back to her battle mat, to her character mat. Stanza ended up having a shield that she had rolled on her previous turn, so that 1 attack die is going to actually hit that shield, and her shield's going to lower down to 1. Let's go back to the battle mat now. Next on the initiative meter, we have the Plated Kobold coming up. Now, he's already got a target. He has Stanza in his sights. He has 1 attack die and 1 defense die. So let's go ahead and grab that, roll, and see what he ends up doing to Stanza. The Plated Kobold attacks Stanza. He rolls 1 attack and 1 shield. The Plated Kobold attacked from 1 attack and 1 shield. That 1 shield is going to go on top of his baddie chip and protect him from 1 damage. However, that 1 attack is going to be absorbed by Stanza's final shield. Since the Plated Kobold was the final character on the initiative meter to take his turn, that brings an end to the first round. We're going to tick the round up to round 2. And once again, we're going to see that it is Duster's turn to go. Here's where Duster is. We're going to want to move and get closer to that Plated Kobold. But in order to do that, we need to see what we can do with Duster at this time. Looking at what options Duster has, she has a dexterity of 4. All right, what I want to do, I need to use one of those dexterity points to be able to move closer to the Plated Kobold. So I'm going to have 3 dexterity remaining. With that, I'm going to roll 2 of her attack dice. And I can't roll any more shield because they are locked in the active slot. Now I could remove one and just re-roll another one. However, what I want to do is, just because it's getting to the end of the battle either way, I just want to roll her Duster's Dagger skill, just so you guys see how it works, okay? Before Duster rolls her dice, she's going to go ahead and use that 1 dexterity to move 1 space closer to the Plated Kobold. Duster rolls her attack. She did 2 damage and 1 bleed. Okay, I forgot to remove this die from the previous turn. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in the 2 attack and the 1 bleed. Now, what bleed does is it places a bleed marker, a bleed die on top of your target, and obviously that was my target, the plated kobold. Now, on the start of his next turn, he's gonna automatically take 1 true damage. He's gonna just bleed. It doesn't matter if he has shield or not. So I know he's dead. Either way, he's gonna die because apart from the bleed that I just placed on him, with 1 attack, Stanza removed his shield, and with the other attack, she went ahead and destroyed the plated kobold, and the plated kobold is no more. That marks the end for Stanza's turn. Since Stanza used her bleed die, her bleed die is now exhausted and placed in the exhausted area. Since the plated kobold was removed, you will also remove his initiative die from the map. Now, it is Stanza's turn once again. Let's see if we could finally finish off this battle once and for all. There's some choices that Stanza could do right now. She could keep advancing her songs, which means that she would need to play the next section. However, doing that's not going to give me enough focus to be able to play both of those songs onto its next section. So what I want to do, I want to vamp her Under the Old Zelfie die song. Now, when you're vamping it, it still uses a focus, but it does not use a dexterity. Okay? However, I also want to vamp her Forever Mine song, because if I were to advance to the next section of the song, she would be controlling a 3-point baddie, but there's no 3-point baddie around, and we are reaching the end of the round, so I'm just going to vamp them both. They're both still going to be playing. When you're vamping a song, it's like you're starting the song over from the beginning. It's not going to give you any type of benefit. I have all of my decks remaining. She's right next to the person, the baddie I'm going to attack. And I don't really have much of a choice other than just to roll my, 1 attack die and 1 defense die. So Stanza rolls her dice, attacking the Goblin Devastator. She rolls 1 bone and 1 shield. Now this is actually the first time I even rolled a bone this whole entire game. But first of all, I'm going to go ahead and grab that 1 shield and place it in her active slot. And that bone, I'm going to place it in what's called the backup plan. Now, in her backup plan, she has different abilities that she could choose from depending how many bones she has in her backup plan. In this case, I have 1 bone here, and I could use this ability right now called Tune Up. And what Tune Up does, it lets me increase my Litard by 1. So I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and spend my bone, and I'm going to tick this up by 1. There's nothing else to do on to the baddie because I didn't get to the attack the baddie. So let's go to the battle mat and find out what happens to us next. Since Stanza didn't land any attacks on the Goblin Devastator, it's not going to be his turn. And he's going to have to roll 1 attack. He's not going to roll his defense anymore because he already rolled his defense and it's on him already. So he's just going to roll 1 die. Let's see what he's going to do to Stanza. The Goblin Devastator rolls, and he rolls 1 attack. If we look at Stanza's mat, she has one defense shield, so that's going to absorb the attack, and that's going to be the end of round 2. So we're going to go ahead and reset, taking the round up 1. We are now in round 3, and it will be Duster's turn. Duster's going to move 2 spaces to be able to get next to her target, the Goblin Devastator. So let's see what she's going to end up rolling next. Since Duster has 4 dexterity, she's going to use 2 of those dexterity to move. And the remaining 2 dexterity she has, she's just going to go ahead and roll 2 attack dice. Duster rolls. Oof. She rolled a bone, and she rolled 1 attack. Duster ended up rolling 1 bone and 1 attack. First, she's going to take those 2 spots, move up 2, and with that 1 attack, she's going to get rid of the Goblin Devastator's shield. The bone she rolled is going to be placed in her backup plan. Nothing that she can really use right now, so we're going back to the battle mat. Alright, it is now Stanza's turn. Alright, now Stanza either has to exhaust her songs or advance them, because they're vamped right now. If she doesn't advance them, she loses them. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to advance this song. That costs 1 dexterity, uses 1 focus. And I'm going to advance this song. And this song is going to use 1 focus and cost 1 dexterity. Now, under the old Zelfie is going to give me 1 more HP buff to myself, as you can see here. Okay. And the other song I'm playing, Forever Mine, once again, I'm going to be able to take control of a 1-point baddie. That's going to leave me with 2 more dexterity, and I will go ahead and roll 1 attack and one defense with my remaining dexterity. Stanza rolls her dice, giving her 1 bone, 1 attack. The bone I rolled will be placed in my backup plan. The song Forever Mine takes effect immediately. It puts a 1-point baddie in a trance, and I'm going to be able to make a baddie movement. I'm going to move 1, 2, ending my baddie movement. I'm going to go back and take control of Stanza once again. And with that 1 attack that I rolled, I'm going to go ahead and take 1 HP away from the Goblin Devastator. That ends Stanza's turn. And it is now the Goblin's Devastator turn to attack and move. As you can remember, detonate. What that does is after his movement phase, which is now, if he has less than full HP, he will detonate and destroy himself and cause everyone adjacent to him two points of true damage. So he's going to go ahead and defeat himself. And Stanza, unfortunately, she can't use her HP buff and takes 2 points of damage, true damage. That, however, removes all the baddies from the board, and Stanza and Duster were successful in completing day 2. After completing day 2, although we do not get any rewards for the choice we made, each Gearlock will, however, receive 2 training points. For my 2 training points, I want to go ahead and try to increase my attack die. Now, in order to do that, I have to roll, in this case, 1 attack die, and hopefully I don't roll a bone. Let's find out what happens. Hopefully Stanza does not roll a bone. She was successful. She did not roll a bone, so she is going to be able to upgrade her attack. Because I was successful, I can go ahead and add a point to my attack. And for my second training point, I actually want to purchase what's called Siege of Quran. The reason I like that is because it gives me the opportunity to remove any effect die that the baddies would try to place on me or my friends. So that's it for Stanza. And going over with Duster over here, I want to go ahead and try to increase her dexterity by 1. Also, I want to go ahead and add her throwing knives. That's an awesome, awesome skill to have with Duster, and I'm very happy with those choices. I got a little bit ahead of myself and I forgot to actually go ahead and remove everything on my active slots, my backup plans. I put my I unexhausted my dice, and I'm bringing Duster back to her mat. And I'm going to go ahead and now do the same thing for Stanza. I have to take everything out of her active slots, put them back where they belong. Remove her backup plan. Now also, any buff HP that I may have earned also gets removed. And Stanza gets placed back on the mat, along with her initiative die, and I'll do the same for Duster as well. At this time, I'm able to go ahead and trade loot, which I don't want to do, and also do a lock picking attempt, but I don't have anything to attempt to pick a lock with. And I'm going to move straight to my individual options for Stanza, since if you remember, she took those that hit from the Devastator Goblin. I'm going to go ahead and recover. So she's going to go ahead and rest and bring her HP back up to 6. And I'm going to go now to Duster. Duster as well, I do not want to change any loot. I like what she has. I don't have anything to lockpick. So she does have full health. So what I am interested in doing, however, I do want to go ahead and I want to scout. So let's go ahead, roll the D6. And for my individual option, I want to scout. So Duster's going to roll her D6 to scout. And she gets to scout a 1-point baddie. So looking at the 1-point baddie stack, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. Ooh, and we have the Chimp Acrobat. Now the Chimp Acrobat has 2 health, which isn't bad at all, and he's only rolling 1 attack die. He has an initiative of 4. He is melee. And the only thing I see here, he will target the weakest gear lock, but his, oh, this is tough though. He has 2 very strong abilities. Let me go ahead and tell you what the first one is. It's a blind strike, and what that means is that at the start of this turn, this unit will deal 1 damage to the strongest adjacent unit. So anyone that's next to him that's the strongest, he will just go ahead and hit. However, just keep in mind, this is any unit, so it could be a baddie or a gear lock. So that could help and hinder us at the same time. However, it's that dodge that I'm a little more worried about than anything, because the dodge is harder to deal with. What happens with this is that you cannot defeat this baddie using attack dice. You'll either have to use like a bleed die, which Duster has, or a skill die, but you cannot use attack dice. But since I have, because of Duster, some ways to take care of him, I'm actually going to keep him in because he's only a 2-point baddie, and I think I could do some short work of him with the right skills. So I'm going to go ahead and put him right back. And that's it. That ends our second day. We're going to go ahead and on the next video, I'm going to start the next encounter with day 3.